everybody, long time no see. Another edition of the Rant. We're just gonna call it the Rant from now on, obviously for obvious reasons, you know, because it didn't quite make the weekly thing during the World Series of Poker. Way too busy to shoot anything like this during the World Series, which is a grind. Speaking of the World Series of Poker, there were a couple of fantasy pools. One was the $25,000 buy-in high roller, which Jason Mercier and Jason Somerville's team won for the second straight year. Here you take a look at the final results, and then a closer look at Jason Mercier's team. Big thanks to John Monet, I don't even know what he likes to be called, but it's John Monetti or something, whatever. Anyway, he had a really big World Series for Jason, so congratulations to him. As for me, I had Alexander Kostritsin, who had 0 points because he never showed up from Russia. So that's on me. Got to do my research next time. And in other fantasy news, the Full Contact Poker Fantasy Draft, which I just basically gave a giveaway for first prize, was 1% of all my action, excluding the one drop and the main event. So you're going to get a grand total of $707.40-something, I think. Hey, sorry, bro. Could have been better. Could have been worse, I guess. The top 20 teams are all going to get prizes 2nd through 5th, an iPad 3, 6th through 10th, Poker VT subscription, and 11th through 20th are all going to get a signed copy of my book. When you get that? When I get around to it, pretty much. I'll be busy. I'm going to Europe, so it's going to be a bit, but it won't be as long as you had to wait for your full tilt money. Obviously, the big news this week, PokerStars comes to the rescue, settles with the DOJ, makes a deal to acquire Full Tilt Poker. And what does that mean for you? Well, first of all, it means you can get your money, okay? If you're in the rest of world players category, you are going to get paid by PokerStars. If you are in the United States of America, the DOJ has been funded well enough to cover all of the player balances there. So I'm not sure how that process is going to work, but I guess we'll wait and see. I've never been more proud to be associated with PokerStars. I know the company is run like a well-oiled machine from top to bottom. Very intelligent, smart people who do business the right way. So again, very, very proud and happy to see that they're doing this. Because frankly, if PokerStars didn't step in, recently Jeff Ifrah did a few interviews, and he's a lawyer for Full Tilt Poker, called it miraculous. And it seemed very, very gloomy. At a time when they were speaking to Bernard Tapie, I think it was 7 months, I went on record as saying, this deal ain't gonna happen, you ain't gonna get paid. I think it was with PokerStrategy.com. Had PokerStars not stepped in, it seems virtually impossible that anybody was ever going to get any money out of their accounts. But the good news is, now that PokerStars is on the case, everybody going to get paid. One other thing I think is very, very important to note is that PokerStars admits absolutely no wrongdoing whatsoever. And I think that's really important down the road, potentially, if legislation becomes an issue. While I see the two things as separate issues, the DOJ settlement and legislation in the future in the United States, having said that, this sort of clears the path and clears the way that if legislation were to happen, there's really no black mark against PokerStars. Quite frankly, I think there's quite the opposite. I think PokerStars is shown to be run like a well-oiled machine. They can be trusted. They've been trusted with player funds, and they've done everything absolutely right since Black Friday. And again, I have to say that I'm absolutely proud of PokerStars as a company. And I know that the people at PokerStars from top to bottom absolutely care. Even though this issue wasn't necessarily related to them, they care about online poker's image. You look to signings like Rafael Nadal, and essentially what that does is it brings PokerStars more into the mainstream, respectable, alongside other brands. Like if you go to the ACC and the Toronto Maple Leaf Games, you see, PokerStars branding on the boards alongside other legitimate companies. And I think that's very important for our industry, especially at a time when people are questioning the legitimacy of it. And I think PokerStars is, I hate to use a world leader in that department in terms of trying to get poker mainstream. They're regulated in 9 different countries, and they do things above board. And like I said, I couldn't be more proud. I think it's a great thing for poker in general. And who knows, you might even see me playing a little bit on Full Tilt Poker. Who would have thunk? So it looks like the plan for Full Tilt Poker is to relaunch somewhere in the winter, probably maybe November-ish, I don't know. And it would also seem like they're going to try to rebuild the brand. Who knows how many of the pre-existing Full Tilt members are going to be there, but this is an opportunity for a lot of people who have there's been a void in terms of sponsorship for a lot of players, and there's a lot of young emerging players who've come about that don't really have the options. Unfortunately, if you're still living in the US and you're a US player, you're probably still not going to. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for either PokerStars or Full Tilt right now, currently, to sign a lot of US players until maybe legislation were to change that. So if you're a rest of the world player, if you're European or something like that, now you got to think that there's more opportunities for you to elevate your brand and potentially sign a sponsorship deal with Full Tilt or PokerStars. I've described this era of poker in a couple interviews as kind of like us being in a holding pattern, sort of a wait and see approach, you know. We're not going to grow at this point. We have to just kind of maintain until we figure out what's going to happen in the United States, because obviously that could potentially create another poker boom if legislation does occur, which seems likely from everything I'm hearing. With this deal being completed, it makes me feel like we're definitely headed in the right direction. Well, I haven't really checked in with you guys since the World Series of Poker, and my World Series of Poker ended with 5 cashes. Started to heat up near the very end. After busting the one drop, I played a $1,500 one of them crapshooty things and came in like 100th place out of 3,000. And then I came 13th in the single draw deuce to 7 no limit, which is an event I was really looking forward to. And I rolled that into a cash in the main event. So I started off with 2 cashes early, nothing in the middle, just lots of vomit, and then 3 cashes at the end for 5 total. Disappointing World Series once again for me. It's not about the number of cashes, it's really the deep runs and the money. I didn't really hit any big scores. So disappointed in that. The main event, I was pretty happy with how I played. I made 5 mistakes throughout that I can think of. Unfortunately, 3 of them came on day 5. They're subtle mistakes. The problem is on day 5 they're magnified because you don't really have enough wiggle room to make any key mistakes when you're, the average stack is only like 50 or 60 big blinds. Having said that, I came in 211th the year before, 160th this year, and I really feel like I've got the event figured out for the most part in terms of the right way to approach it. And I'm looking forward to, finishing 158th next year. The final table is set for what I call them, the October, what are they calling these people? The Octo 9? Yeah, the Octo 9. Well, the Octo 9, how do you say this while being politically correct, is a little short on star power. There's one player there who apparently a lot of the young guys knew. His name's Gregory Merson. I did play with him a little bit. Wouldn't say that I know him, but other than that, I don't know any of the 9 players. Finishing 10th and 11th were a story. You had women, which, that hasn't happened since Barbara Enright, who made the final table way back in who knows how long, 90-something. It was really unfortunate that 2 women didn't make the final table. I mean, a lot of people, are up in arms about it because it just would have been such a great story.
Mein Führer, Steiner konnte nicht genügend Kräfte für einen Angriff massieren. Der Angriff Steiner ist nicht erfolgt.
Das war ein Befehl! Der Angriff Steiners war ein Befehl! Nur um zu lernen, wie man Messer und Gabel hält! Von Jahren alle höheren Offiziere registrieren zu lassen, wie Stalin! Mit ihrem eigenen Blut werden sie bezahlen! Sie werden das saufen in ihrem eigenen Blut!
Bitte gerne. Jetzt beruhig dich doch.
Die Befehle sind in den Wind gesprochen. Es ist unmöglich, unter diesen Umständen zu führen. Es ist aus. Der Krieg ist verloren. Aber wenn Sie, meine Herren, glauben, dass ich deswegen Berlin verlasse, irren Sie sich gewaltig. Eher jage ich mir eine Kugel durch den Kopf.
If you want to see the entire crazy little Poker Hitler video, links down below. There was one other interesting story from the World Series of Poker that was reported on by cardplayer.com. Originally they said that, a Jewish player on day 5 of the main event didn't show up to play because of religious reasons, and his wife didn't want him to play because it was a Sabbath or something like that. Well, the truth is, the guy was actually Christian, and his wife said that, they're supposed to rest on that day. And I was thinking to myself, wow, no, that's some commitment. Now, I'm not judging, to each his own. I just can't imagine, anning out on day 5, and I can't imagine that the God I believe in wouldn't want me to. But, to each his own. Speaking of God and all of that, there's been a whole bunch of controversy with this Chick-fil-A group who are essentially anti-gay. It's an issue that's near and dear to my heart because my assistant, Patty, she's a lesbian. My other assistant who works under Patty, I know she's baller, right? He's also gay. So I got rainbows around me. Jason Somerville, who recently came out in a very well-written blog, is gay, a good friend of mine. And Vanessa Selps, another good friend of mine who I just golfed with recently, she's a lesbian. So since Patty and Joel are always in the house, these gay issues, civil rights issues really come up all the time. And I genuinely do feel like it's the civil rights issue of our time. There was a time when women weren't allowed to vote. There was also a time when blacks couldn't drink from the same water fountains and they had to sit in the back of the bus. And there's currently a time where there's a prejudice against gays. And it really stems from 6 verses in the Bible out of about 35,000. Now, this next little bit, if you're an atheist, is going to be completely irrelevant to you. But for those that are Christian and have qualms about the idea of homosexuality, a kid named Matthew Vines spent a couple years coming up with some theology on breaking down the 6 verses in the Bible that relate to homosexuality, and he doesn't believe that it's a sin. Here's a little clip.
Gay people have the very same capacity for romantic love and self-giving that straight people do. The emotional bond that gay couples share, the quality of love, is identical to that of straight couples. Gay people, like almost all of us, come from families, and they too long to build one of their own. But the consequence of the traditional interpretation of the Bible is that while straight people are told to avoid lust, casual relationships, and promiscuity, gay people are told to avoid romantic relationships entirely. Straight people's sexuality is seen as a fundamentally good thing, as a gift. It can be used in sinful or irresponsible ways, but it can also be harnessed and oriented toward a loving marriage relationship that will be blessed and celebrated by their community. But gay people, though they are capable of and desire loving relationships that are just as important to them, are told that for them, even lifelong, committed relationships would be sinful because their sexual orientation is completely broken.
And it's pretty clear that God says, like anally gang raping his angels is not nice. Like, you shouldn't do that. That's clearly a sin. As for, homosexuality in itself, I don't believe it clearly states that. Now, there is one verse in the Bible that's referenced quite often, Romans 1 through 26 in the New Testament, where it says something to the effect of like women left what's natural for unnatural things, and men left what's natural for unnatural things. In the sermon by Matthew Vines, he breaks this down much better than I could, but essentially, my response to that is that it's simply unnatural for a gay man to sleep with a woman. Now, please do me a favor. Before you throw a bunch of gay hate into the comment box, please do me a favor and watch the 1-hour sermon and decide for yourself. If you are a Christian believer who is always conflicted by the idea of homosexuality, I think he makes a very, very valid case that even based on what's written in those 6 verses, God is not anti-gay. So neither should you be. Now, while it doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that poker in itself is a sin, I'm pretty sure it states clearly that Badoosie is a sin. And I've come to that conclusion after playing the mixed games a little bit at the Bellagio here and there. And I'm not one to sort of hate on games, and this might be controversial because it is a fun game. I feel like the pros in the game who are spreading this newer mix of Badoosie, Badacey, are actually lowering their hourly rate significantly because the games are slower for one. And the edge between a semi-competent player and a very, very good player is minimal in comparison to some of the other games. So, again, while I think the games are fun, I look around the table and I think to myself, okay, you got one player in this game who's kind of bad. You're playing a bunch of games where he's not really like that much worse than you at. How much money do you guys think you're going to make an hour? I looked around the table and I saw basically all people who play poker professionally. And I felt like they're all missing the boat a little bit. I think you always have to be willing to adapt to what's juicy. And I think now if you're a professional poker player and you're playing, in Vegas, you got to be playing No Limit Hold'em or Pot Limit Omaha because those are the games that attract the most tourists. You never see random tourists go, "What are you guys playing?" "Oh, we're playing Barassi, Badoosie, Badacey, and they're like, is there No Limit Hold'em? So while in any poker game, certainly there's different degrees of edge in terms of pros. Like 6 pros could be playing at a table and 2 of the pros could be absolute suckers in the game. But I just don't feel like this is time well spent for these guys. And I think the mix of games lowers the edge and lowers the gap. And, the games are spread now and it's not like I'm going to be able to change the mix. And I don't hate the games. I just feel like these guys are all doing themselves a disservice by having so many of those games in the mix. It just plays too slow. And I don't think they break down their hourly rate the way they should. Someone who would not make that mistake in terms of breaking down the game the way you should is Phil Galfond. He recently wrote another blog that was a real doozy, talking about how to break down life decisions. He doesn't judge. He just gives you sort of a guide on how to think through problems in your life, and I highly recommend the blog. There is a link down below, so definitely check that out. I haven't really watched a lot of the Olympics so far this year. I recently got into it, watching the 10K. I used to be a long distance runner. And then, of course, I'm kind of into the sprinting because I'm originally was Jamaican when I was a little youth, seeing. So when we're watching the races, me having a heart and feeling for Jamaican people that me close with them, seeing, because me was born in Canada. My parents are Romanian, so me have the European style of them. But all my brethren, them, they was Yardie. So me understand Jamaican spirit and Jamaican culture, and me love it, seeing. So when me watch them races, me always rooting for Usain Bolt and all of them, seeing. So go on, big up Jamaica one time, right, Star? There is one story that is kind of like strategy based, so it really caught my attention from the Olympics, and it was like the badminton thing. Apparently what happened is like some one seed got like upset big time, so it made sense strategy wise for these other teams to just dump, okay? It made sense for them to lose because then they'd actually get to play an easier match in the next round. To me, that just seems intelligent, smart, and gives them the best chance at gold. And after all, the Olympics is supposed to be about aiming for gold. Really, I don't put the blame on the players for taking advantage of loopholes. I think it's on the IOC to make sure that there's never an opportunity for dumping to be the best strategy. And frankly, I think just transcends sport in general. There's all types of situations, whether it's the NHL, the NFL, or NBA, where it actually would make sense for teams to dump. Whether it's like in the NFL for if you're last, you get the first pick overall, which is stupid. They don't have a lottery system. Or for a better matchup in the first round. The way to fix that is real simple, and the Olympics should adopt this as well. And it would actually create a lot of controversy, but good, fun controversy. If you're the one seed, you get to choose your opponent in the first round and every round throughout. Not only is that really, really fun and can create a lot of like media attention to saying, whatever, like the Bulls were the 8th seed, but they picked the Knicks who were the 5th seed. Ooh, no respect for the Knicks, what's up? All these articles could be written about it. But the bottom line is, if you're the 1 seed, you should have the choice of who you get to play. And what that does is it forces every team in the league to always try to go up in seed and not go down. The problem with the way they do things in some sports is if you win your division, let's say it's hockey in the NHL, and you win the Southeast, which is a weak division, well, you automatically get the 3 seed. So you could be a much weaker team than the 4 and the 5 seed, right? So if you're a 5 seed, you'd rather maybe be the 6 seed and play against the weaker 3 seed than the 4 seed who's better than the 3 seed. Make sense? It would take me 15 minutes to come up with a system that would never reward a team for tanking. All this ruling is going to accomplish is simply that teams that want to dump are just going to do a better job of it. Whether it's faking injuries like back injuries, which can never be proven. Imagine first serve, pulled something, and then miraculously got some rehab, and you're okay for the next game. Point being, it's the structure of the event that's the problem, not the players giving themselves their best chance at gold. Since the World Series of Poker, I've been doing a lot of home unwinding, and I put Breaking Bad on my list of things to do, and I'm in season 3, episode 10 right now. And there's been a ton of hype. Everyone I know absolutely loves the show. And while I do like it, I do like the show. It's not Sopranos, it's not Curb Your Enthusiasm, and it's not 24 for me. Like I said, I do enjoy it, and I think it's cool, but I think I know what it is. I think I figured it out. There's no one in the show that I'm like, I really love that guy. Oh, I wish I was that guy. There's no aspirational quality. There's nobody that I think is really that cool. Like Walter White, he's kind of like a dork. He's kind of dorky, I guess. I don't know. I just can't imagine. Doyle Brunson posted this on Twitter. He's like, I wonder how long Walter White would last if he walked into New Jersey when Tony Soprano was around. My veg time is about over, though. August 7th, I'm going to be traveling to Halifax for a couple days to do a show. Then I'm going to be going to Toronto on the 10th to do another show for the NHL Charity Shootout once again. And then I'm going to fly to London for a meeting. And then it's EPT Barcelona, back to work again. I'm excited to get back at it. There's going to be a €50,000 buy-in at the start. If you are looking to plan that, get a hold of Gary Gates. I think you can find him on Twitter, because I believe that you get 4 free nights if you book ahead and pay ahead. So you might as well do that. And then after Barcelona, you're looking at WCOOP time. I mean, we've got September, that 2-3 week period. Last year I cashed 15 times, and I came 3rd in the Player of the Year race. I don't know that I'm going to dedicate as much time to it this year. I haven't decided yet, but we'll see. And then on the heels of that, they actually conflict, which is really unfortunate. The main event of the WCOOP runs right into World Series of Poker Europe. Following that, I'm going to be in San Remo for the EPT event there. There's one other bit of poker news that I wanted to share with you all. During the main event, I had the pleasure of playing with a young kid named Ryan Young on day 4, and he's just a ball of energy, full of life. It's really entertaining. I actually had more fun during that 3-hour period we were at the same table before he got knocked out than I did the entire tournament. Just such a positive, good young kid with a lot of personality, which there's a little bit of a void of. And unfortunately, he passed away last week in a car accident, and I received a letter from his mother. She wanted to thank a lot of people for all the support, and she asked me to post a little letter of thank you on my blog, which I did, but I'd also like to attach it here. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to leave you with that and just give it a read. It's a quick read.